Okay, just a few seconds. All right, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Jackson. I'm the chair of the Democrats. You can learn more about us by going to www.dekabdems.com or following us at DeKalb Democrats on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. We find voter education to be very important, not just on the partisan races, nonpartisan races as well. And one of the very important nonpartisan races on the August 11th runoff is the Superior Court Judge's race between Mindy Pillow and Yolanda Parker-Smith. And that's why we are having this discussion with candidates tonight. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go on to the forum.
Thank you, John. I'm Gloria Moore. I'm the Special Events Chair for DeKalb Dems, and I welcome everyone, our audience, especially this evening, but also our moderators, Judge Velma Tilley and Chris Bruce with ACLU, and especially our candidates, Yolanda Parker-Smith. And we are anticipating that Ms. Tilley will, Ms. Pillow will join us shortly. We had a couple of power outages around the city just a little while ago, and we hope she'll be able to join us. But, you know, as the old saying goes, the show must go on. So we're going to start this evening with the moderators asking the candidates questions in a couple of different areas. And as John said, it's pretty critical that we all have an opportunity to know the positions of our elected officials. Most of the time, a lot of us miss the judges. And we're finding more and more that that's critical to us. We need to know who our judges are since we do elect them, that there's a reason for that, right? So we'll have a round of questions by Velma, and then we'll have a round of questions by Chris. Before we get started, however, we are going to give Yolanda an opportunity to give us an opening statement. And once we've asked the questions, then she'll have an opportunity to do a closing statement. We probably won't have a lot of time for questions, and we definitely won't take questions if Ms. Pillow is unable to join us this evening. But we do want to give Yolanda an opportunity to get her message out and really talk with us about some of her positions on critical issues. So,
hey Gloria, I just received
yes.
word she's trying to get in, so she'll be here in just a moment.
Excellent, excellent. So one of the things that, you know, John mentioned is that August 11th is the runoff date. And voters are notorious for not going out and voting in the runoff. We have some actually exciting runoff elections coming up, and hopefully people will go. So we have to support our candidates. So let's do that. And I'm going to go ahead and let Yolanda start with her opening statement, and then we'll go to the questions. Yolanda, you're up.
Thank you so very much to the DeKalb Democrats for giving me this opportunity. Again, my name is Yolanda Parker-Smith, and I am a candidate for DeKalb County Superior Court Judge. I'm a proud 17-year resident of DeKalb County. I have worked on both sides of the courtroom. I have over 20 years of courtroom and litigation experience. I have experience on the prosecutorial side and public defense side. I've also worked in accountability courts and diversion courts. I've assisted and advocated for thousands of children, adults, and family. I'm a lifelong community servant, and I want to continue my service to DeKalb County. As judges, people need to realize that judges are servants. And as servants, judges have a very important part, a critical part in our community. They can take your property, they can take your freedom and they can take your life. So it's extremely important who that individual is making those critical decisions because they affect everyday citizens in their everyday lives. Now, too often the concept of fairness and justice and equality are often missed on everyday citizens. I have been focusing on making sure that everybody, doesn't matter where you come from, what you have in your pocket, that ensuring that all people attain justice. You know, I've met people who've scoffed at the idea that they can actually obtain justice, you know, from Wesley Chapel, Candler Road, and the likes, Doraville. And too often, fairness and equality are just not applied to those less fortunate. And my ideal towards a fair, equal, and balanced justice system is why I'm running for DeKalb County Superior Court Judge. Because as I see it, the biggest issue facing our justice system is credibility. The lack of credibility has undermined the integrity of the courts, and the citizens believe that decisions are based on power, prestige, and politics. They need to know that decisions are based on objective reasoning, facts, and the law, not race, not gender, not income. See, DeKalb County Superior Court judges preside over criminal matters, domestic matters, as well as civil matters. They affect everyday citizens in their everyday lives. I want to restore integrity and credibility back to our justice system as your next DeKalb County Superior Court judge. Fairness, equality, and competence, compassion, courtesy, and community. They're not my creed, they're a promise. As your next DeKalb County Superior Court judge, please elect me, Yolanda Parker-Smith, August the 11th. Thank you for your time.
Yolanda, thank you so much for that opening statement. And has Ms. Pillow joined us yet?
I don't believe so.
Not
Okay.
yet. She still can't get in.
Okay.
So
We're
why
going
don't
to,
I start with my first question for Ms. Parker-Smith? Will that work?
Okay,
yes,
that
it will.
work just fine.
And then
Okay,
we'll interrupt and let her do her statement when she joins us.
absolutely.
Go right ahead.
So Ms. Parker-Smith, this is right in your wheelhouse, given your
Okay.
experience. As you well know, 17-year-olds are now under the jurisdiction of the Superior Court for criminal offenses. Should they be under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court system? In your opinion, why or why not?
Well, I think it actually that changed where now 17-year-olds are indeed under the jurisdiction of juvenile court. As it relates to my opinion, as a judicial candidate, as the sitting judge, I can't offer you my opinion as it relates to matters or issues that may come before me as a judge. You know, it's extremely important that that we understand that every person has a right to a neutral judge. You know, the judges don't make the law, they don't execute the law. It's their job to uphold the law. So as a judicial candidate and as a judge, I can't advise the public of my opinion, because at the end of the day, my personal opinion has no credence as it relates to how I decide on my cases. Every person has a right to a fair, neutral, unbiased, and impartial judge as it relates to deciding their cases and matters that are coming before the judge.
Okay, I appreciate that. Certainly everybody does have a fair and, a right to a fair and impartial judge. Do you, in light of that, do you feel like that a Superior Court judge has a role in any way in making systems better?
Absolutely. I do think that all judges have a responsibility to ensure the integrity of the system and the credibility of the judicial system. And that includes the administration of justice and making sure that people are treated fairly and treated with dignity. So judges do have a responsibility as it relates to ensuring that the wheels of justice turn judiciously and timely. The judges have a responsibility to uphold the integrity of the law, and judges have a responsibility to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. So they do have a responsibility and a duty, I would say, to ensure that all people believe in the justice system, that all people are treated fairly by the justice system, and that the justice system works for everybody in the community.
Well, you do know too, as that right now 13-year-olds to 16-year-olds that are accused of one of the 7 deadlies or 8 deadly sins, one of the offenses that get them starting out in Superior Court. And then the Superior Court can transfer them back to the Juvenile Court. A 13-year-old would start in Superior Court. What kinds of factors would you look at to see if a 13-year-old should be tried in the Superior Court to ultimately go into the prison system when they turn 17?
I think that is a place where the legal system, the judicial system has to take note that social science and neurological science has stated that most individuals and their brains are not mature enough at the ages of 13, 16, and even 17 to make reasonable decisions. So I think it's extremely important that the judicial system take note that they're not mature enough. And I think that the judicial system would benefit from acknowledging the science that during that age span, that they're not just mature enough to make decisions. They're not mature enough to think about the repercussions and the consequences. So I think that is something that the legal system does need to take in consideration when sentencing and considering placing children of those ages, 13, 14, 15, 16, in the adult system. Take into consideration that their biology, their brain is just not mature enough to handle their acts and their behavior at that time. And also, I think it's extremely important that, again, the legal system catch up with science, that we need to take into consideration diversion programs, and that everyone as a juvenile, as a young person, deserves a second chance. We all could benefit from a second glance or another opportunity or additional resources when we were 17-year-olds. I mean, just think of the benefit that a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old would have if the judicial system prepared them or educated them and took that in consideration as relates to their conduct and behavior as being productive citizens in the community.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad you brought up the part about brain science, because a lot of the public probably doesn't have that realization, even though we might know it about our own kids.
And I have too, so yes.
They might know it about other people's kids. Yeah.
That's true.
And so my third question and you kind of already touched on that, what innovations would you like to bring to DeKalb Superior Court?
DeKalb Superior Court. Well, I'm definitely an advocate for the diversion and accountability courts, because I've always said that justice does not always have to occur within the 4 walls of a courtroom. Okay, and I think it's extremely important that we make note that diversion courts play a very important part in addressing issues when it comes to the individual. Everyone that comes into a courtroom is not necessarily a criminal. It could be someone who's just misguided. It could be someone who lacks the appropriate, adequate resources to just have the autonomy of being an individual in the United States of America. So I would definitely improve the diversion courts. Right now they have a mental health diversion courts, and I have experience with that. Substance abuse diversion courts. They have parent accountability diversion courts and veterans accountability courts, all of which I've had experience in. So I think that's one thing that we need to prop up more. We also need to get more resources. It's not all about, it's not just about having the resources, it's acknowledging the resources and making sure that everyone has equal access to the resources too. But also partnerships. I think it's extremely important in addressing our judicial system, whether it be with churches, colleges, Greek organizations, even law enforcement and corporations, where we can bridge the gap of the haves and the have-nots, the resources and the lack of resources, so we could build a better system to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and everyone has equal access to opportunity. So again, I would prop up diversion courts, making sure that they have the resources. I would also create more partnerships between churches, law enforcement, corporations, to bridge the gap between the judicial system and the community, because I think that's extremely important. Because again, justice does not always have to occur with a case number or a file number. It can occur outside of the community.
Well, thank you for that. We're still, for the audience, having a conversation with Yolanda Parker-Smith, and I believe our other candidate is still trying to join us. But in the meantime, we're going to keep rolling. So I'm going to ask Chris, you have some questions to ask Ms. Parker-Smith?
Yes, thank you, Gloria. And Ms. Parker-Smith, thank you for being here. I want to start off by saying I am a graduate of Stevenson High School, so it is a pleasure to be here, especially for a community that I love, DeKalb County. It's the best county in the state of Georgia.
That's why we moved here.
That's exactly why we
No, really, we chose DeKalb County. We could have moved anywhere in the continental United States of America from Boston. And my husband and I did the research, and we didn't choose Atlanta. We didn't choose Cobb or Gwinnett. We chose DeKalb County specifically for the wealth of opportunity that was here in DeKalb County. So that's where we came here, moved here, and started our family and educated our children. So I understand.
I think you made the right choice. So let's jump into it. The United Nations Human Rights Office on Friday called on the United States security forces to limit their use of force against peaceful protesters and journalists as clashes between federal agents and demonstrators continue in Portland, Oregon. What are your thoughts on, one, the use of force against protesters, and two, what are your thoughts of police being prosecuted for use of force charges, and what changes do you believe need to be made in the way that these types of cases are currently conducted?
Now, once again, Chris, I can't, as a judicial candidate and as a judge, I cannot articulate or express my personal opinions as it relates to anything that may come before me as a judge. As it relates to the protest, as the mother of a 16-year-old who organized and participated, and the mother of a 19-year-old who also organized and participated in said protest. It was my job to advise my children, not only my children, but also my comrades and neighbors of their right that was given to them by the First Amendment, the right to assemble and the right to expression, and to make sure that they adhere to the rules that are sometimes set by government and legislation as relates to how they can assemble and how they can express themselves. So how I feel about the use of force, how I feel about police brutality, I cannot articulate my personal beliefs and opinions as it relates to that, because actuality, those types of cases may come before me as a sitting judge, Chris, and I'm not allowed to, it would be unjust and unfair, and actually a violation of my code of ethics and the canons to articulate or express my personal opinions, how I feel about those issues that may come before me.
So I'm going to push back a little bit. You're
Okay.
saying that you cannot comment on is police brutality right or wrong?
What do you mean? What do you mean I cannot comment
Well,
on police?
I'm saying, are you saying that police brutality is okay? Is this an acceptable form of the police to go out and do things? You wouldn't say up front that the police would be able to plant evidence someplace or anything else, right? That's, I'm not putting in a hypothetical. I'm putting in.
No, absolutely not, Chris. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Under no circumstances is police brutality okay.
Okay.
That's just, again, but you asked me to comment on the use of force, as it relates to the protesting. And again, those types of cases can very readily come before me as it relates to being a judge in Superior Court. So I can't articulate how I feel about the use of force. But I will tell you that, again, police brutality is something that needs to be addressed. Now, as it relates to police being prosecuted in immunity, again, that's another thing as it relates to being a Superior Court judge that may come before me. But at the end of the day, it's all about being human, okay? Chris. It's about acknowledging that the people who have something to say and want to say and want to express it have a right through the First Amendment to assemble and express themselves. And it should not be trampled on, because that is a right given to them by the First Amendment of our Constitution. And as long as they stay within the guidelines of what's allowed and the confines of assembling and expressing themselves, it's extremely important that they know that they have a right to assemble and express, and extremely important that they know that. But also, at the end of the day, it's about being human. It's about being treated fairly. It's about being treated, humanely in your expression and your assertion of your First Amendment rights. So I'm not, by no stretch of the imagination, am I saying police brutality is okay? Definitely not. Okay.
Right.
By no stretch of the imagination am I saying that it's okay to trample on someone's First Amendment right to assemble and to express themselves, because again, that is a right guaranteed. So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that you're asking me for my opinions. A judicial candidate, a judge cannot express their personal opinions, because at the end of the day, we want all judges to follow the rules, right? We want all judges to follow the law. We want all judges to be neutral. We want all judges to be impartial. We don't want a judge to take his or her personal opinions or feelings regarding any issue and inserting that into a matter that's before the court. And I don't want to run afoul of the canons or the ethics that I'm held to as relates to being a candidate or a judicial, a possible and a future judicial officer.
Well, Ms. Parker-Smith, thank you for your answer. Let me begin that way. I know there are a lot of people in DeKalb County and across this nation who are really looking for answers about how people do believe in things. So as a practicing attorney, I completely understand your stance as a judicial candidate who may go in front of these times, but these are different times that we are in. And as we are pushing for people to call out injustices, we want to make sure that we have the right candidates in those positions to make this happen. So I'll go to question number 2.
Well, and that means, okay. Okay.
I know, I love having a discussion as well.
I do, because I think it's extremely important that people need to realize that there are 3 distinct and separate parts of our government, and we all know that.
Right.
Executive, they enforce the law. Legislative, they make the law. Judicial, we do what? We enforce and apply the law. We don't voice our opinion in that application. Okay, we have very distinct rules as relates to what we do. How as a judge, just like anybody else voice their opinion, how they feel about a certain rule or law, guess what? You do it in the ballot box, you vote.
Absolutely. And we'll follow. I have another question to follow up.
Okay.
Question 2. DeKalb County has had a history of issues, including, but not limited to, voter confusion, long wait at polling locations, and absentee ballots. If you ever take the position of Chief Judge of DeKalb Superior Court, you will have the duty of appointment to the DeKalb Board of Elections. Please describe to us what characteristics you will want in an appointee, and how will you go about picking an appointee?
First and foremost, extremely important that the person is in the community, vested in the community, and invested in the community. Number 1. Someone who is very vocal and obvious as it relates to ensuring that all individuals who are registered to vote get an opportunity to vote, and make sure that vote is counted. Make sure that person is a very respected individual in the community, but also a person of integrity, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important as it relates to voter, making sure that the votes are counted and that everyone's voice is heard. So it's extremely important that the person is in the community, that they're respected in the community, they have integrity and credibility with the community, they hold the right and the privilege of voter being able to vote in the highest esteem, and that they work hard to ensure the integrity of the vote. So those would be the characteristics that I would make sure that the individual, that if I have the honor of being the Chief Justice to appoint someone to that board, those would be just some of the very important qualities that I would look for an individual to have as relates to being appointed to that particular board.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Laws are often passed by the state legislature that are racist and discriminatory in nature, like the governor's Lange Gang bill, which thankfully did not pass this session. The legislature also passes laws which are blatantly unconstitutional, like the 6-week abortion ban that passed last year. If elected, would you advocate against these laws in the state legislature? And what role do you believe a judge should play in this process? And let me play this out even more.
Okay.
So there have always been task force that have been put together that composes of district attorneys, that have composed of members of the community, and have composed of judges. Would you play a part of these type of task force when it comes to things such as criminal justice reform down at the state legislature?
As I stated before, Chris, I think it's extremely important that judges have a duty and responsibility to ensure that the legal system is working and is working for everyone. And I think it's extremely important that we recognize that judges can participate in, I don't want to say an activism or legislating from the bench, but you can be active in the community to make sure that you're connected to the community in order to hear the voice of the community, to make sure that what they want is heard and that their issues or concerns and matters that are important to them, that are critical to them, are before the appropriate bodies. Because at the end of the day, remember, Chris, who elects our legislator? The community. So it's going to be incumbent upon those individuals to ensure that the people who they want to make those laws are put into place in order to make those laws. Because again, the legislators make the laws. Who elects legislators? The people. How they do that? By the ballot.
And you're saying that judges play absolutely no role in showing what comes before their courts or issues that happen within evidence or the type of laws that are actually passed?
No, Chris, remember I said that the judges have a duty and responsibility to ensure that the integrity of the system is upheld. And that means participating to making sure that the advocacy or the administration of justice is just that, fair and credible to all people, and for the record, I want to say that most judges do participate or in those types of forums to acknowledge the things that come before them. Because at the end of the day, it's extremely important that we recognize that discretion as a judge, being a judge, doesn't cross that line into discrimination. So I think judges already do play a critical part in ensuring that the legal justice system is fair and just, and that the voices of the community is heard through their community activism and the community support, and they're being vested inside of the vestiges of each community. So I'm always about the community. I've been one of those candidates. I'm everywhere in the community. I've been Brookhaven, Doraville, Clarkston, and the people want to be heard. And I tell them the way you're heard is through the ballot. It's by voting. It's by making sure that you're registered to vote. It's making sure that everyone in your household who's eligible to vote votes. Also, the census. You matter. You count. Individuals have to realize that they hold the power. They hold the power to change, and voting and being counted is where it starts, Chris.
Gloria, I saw you jump in. I'm gonna waive my last question. Let me bring up an example because maybe it's a communication point. Governor Deal started a criminal justice reform council that led to sweeping changes, including the amount of people who were let out of prison while public safety was going up and people were saving taxpayer dollars. The person who was in charge of Governor Deal's Criminal Justice Council was Supreme Court Justice Boggs. Are you saying that Supreme Court Justice Boggs did not live up to his duty as a Supreme Court justice or a judge as far as chairing this council?
No, I'm not. I think, again, it's our duty and responsibility to educate, empower, and equip the community to do what they can do in order to effect change, Chris. And as far as giving my opinion or how I feel Justice Boggs did or did not do, I don't think that's appropriate. But again, I keep going back to the same. I believe that the power of the community is educating them, equipping them, and empowering them to affect the change that they want to see.
Okay, I say the same three. Thank you, Ms.
Because it's important. I think it's extremely important, Chris.
And it is, and I just know that at this moment in time, judges are the ones who are at the forefront because they are the ones in the courtroom. They know what's in there. They can see what's been something that is an injustice that is happening within communities.
I agree, but you know what, Chris? Yeah, I agree.
In certain communities, in certain areas, and it's up to a judge to really address these issues in that courtroom. They have the power to do that.
I totally agree.
Have those judges to be able to
totally agree, and I think it comes to, as you stated, Deal appointed someone to a task force. There are not very many task forces in which judges can just volunteer. So again, judges do play a very important part with their discretion. They play an important part to make sure that the discretion doesn't cross over the line to discrimination. It's their job to ensure that that laws are applied equally and fairly. It's their duty and job and responsibility to make sure that everyone who comes in the courtroom receives the same sentence. It's important that judges are held accountable for making sure that people don't receive different sentences for different people. So I totally understand, Chris, but again, I think it all comes down to empowering, educating, and equipping our citizens to effect the change that they want to see through the ballot box. But I agree, judges do play a part. Like I said, I think judges should work to effect change, to make sure, by being in the community, to effect change, to make sure that the justice system is just that, a just and fair system.
So two things I'd like to contribute here.
Okay.
One is we in our oaths, we promise to uphold the Constitution as well.
Right.
Which means that if something is unconstitutional, we can say it's unconstitutional, whether the legislature did it or not. Correct? Would you agree?
I totally agree, Judge Tilley. Yes.
Great. And just so you know, the Council of Superior Court Judges has a judge at the legislature every day they are in session.
Right.
So they're down there.
I know. Believe me that we as in the community, they told me that they have high expectations, for what judges do because of the power that they have in affecting everyday people in their everyday lives.
All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Velma, did you have another question?
Why, sure. So that's kind of actually, it leads into the accountability piece, Ms. Parker-Smith. That is, since the JQC doesn't seem to be operational at the moment, so how should judges be held accountable other than by election? And maybe it is the JQC and reactivating it.
Right. They should be held accountable not only by their peers, but also by the community because they are elected officials. If the community doesn't like a particular judicial officer, guess what? They get to elect somebody else. And it's very funny, as when I started this process, a lot of people didn't know if the community doesn't like that judges were elected, they were actually elected officials. So that was mind-boggling to some people that they just assumed that all judges were appointed, but judges could be held accountable not only to their colleagues. Everyone has to report to someone, but also most importantly, they have to be held accountable by the community. So the community must stay vigilant and diligent as it relates to making sure that the people who they put on the bench is held accountable as it relates to what they're doing in the courtroom. It's like a social compact type of theory. If the people's needs are not being met, guess what? Put somebody else on the bench.
Yeah. I see Ms. Pillow has joined us, so maybe it's time for her opening statement, and I'll Oh, I'll go back out. Thank you for your very enlightening answers.
Well, thank you.
Yes, Yolanda, thank you for, being focused on for the last 30 minutes or so. And
That's
Mindy, we're
fine,
so
thank you.
sorry you weren't able to get in to the call, but we're going to keep rolling. And some of the questions that were asked of Ms. Parker-Smith, we're going to ask you as soon as you get settled in. But first of all, we want to give you an opportunity to give an opening statement, and then we'll take a few questions, and then give you both an opportunity to give your closing statements. So Yolanda, if you would just relax for a minute, and again, thank you so much for being gracious and keeping us rolling here.
Thank you.
So Mindy, how are you? You have to turn your mic on. We can't hear you just yet. Oops. May have lost her again. All right, Mindy, you're back. We just need you to turn your mic on. We can see you, we just can't hear you. Mindy, you want to try speaking again? Okay. While we're waiting another few minutes for her to get situated, Yolanda, would you tell us what that organization is that you all were just talking about? Is there an organization that is that holds judges accountable for their behavior or actions?
Well, as Judge Tilley stated, the JQC, the Judicial Qualifying Committee, is responsible, is tasked with ensuring that judges stand up to their ethical, moral, and judicial code of being a judicial officer. So Judge Tilley is correct. There's a JQC.
And JQC is like
Judicial
local, state?
No, it's state. State, the whole state. The governor appoints individuals from all over the state of Georgia, from all walks of life, district attorneys, judges, corporate lawyers, family lawyers, different from all walks of life to decide. And basically they're the body that holds judicial officers, i.e. judges, accountable for their actions in the courtroom and sometimes out of the court.
Okay, and I have one other question.
Okay.
Since we've got,
okay,
sort of an opportunity to do this.
Okay.
And maybe some other folks that aren't as familiar with the judicial system will also appreciate your answer. I don't know what the relationship is between judges and prosecutors. When a prosecutor brings a case to a judge, do you always have to accept it, or can you ask them to look for options? What's that relationship like?
There should be no quote unquote relationship between prosecutors and judges. At the end of the day, it's the discretion of the district attorney to decide whether or not a case comes before a judge. It is my understanding that hopefully if it's a case that can be resolved short of being in court, that's not a decision that a judge would make. That would be something that both the prosecutor and hopefully the defense attorney or the public defender can resolve. Or even now, I would say I have been in many an environment in which a judge may strongly suggest that certain cases not be brought before the court, and that there are other means of resolving issues. We got mediation is an opportunity to not use judicial time and to address cases that can be resolved outside of court. We got accountability courts that they could use to resolve and address issues outside of courts, and diversion courts are another opportunity to resolve cases outside of, before a judge. So there are other alternatives to resolving cases. And again, it's about restorative justice. Again, there are opportunities to resolve short of being in the four walls of the court. That's part of being, a proponent of restorative justice.
Okay, I think that answers that. And if we don't have Ms. Pillow back on, I would like for you to go ahead and do your closing statement for us, unless Velma or Christopher has another question. Or...
I don't mind. I mean,
I just knew Chris was going to give me another question. I knew it. I was like, okay, I know Chris is not done with me yet.
Love having conversations.
Yes.
Especially about the county that we love. So I appreciate this.
Please.
And I don't think this is too controversial of a question.
You know what they say?
Popped up in my head. It's kind of a follow-up from the previous question.
Okay.
That you had answered.
Okay.
We had talked about the chief of the Superior Court Judge appointing to the Board of Elections.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we have a discriminatory, antiquated, racist law where felons are not able to vote. So I understand that you don't want to touch on the aspect of should that be law or not, but in looking for people that you would appoint towards the DeKalb Board of Elections, they can advocate for change into allowing felons to be able to vote in certain situations. Is this one of the characteristics that you would be looking for as far as someone being fit at a Board of Elections when you're looking at appointing people?
Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely. Again, as you recall, some of the qualities or characteristics I named as it relates to that individual, a big part of that was being in the community. That person being in the community and invested in the community to be able to advocate for change. So absolutely, that would definitely be another characteristic of an individual that I would seek, seek that particular characteristic for an individual being appointed to the board, and also maybe someone who even has experience with dealing with people who've been incarcerated. That also may be a characteristic of an individual who may be that I may look to as far as relating to being on the board. So I think it's extremely important that we stay focused on making sure that anyone that is put on any type of board or task force is truly indeed a voice of the community, and not just a figurehead, but also be a person in the community, of the community, as relates to speaking for the people. Because as a public defender, that's extremely important. I've been a public defender for the past 14 years. So I know how it feels for a person to feel like they were not respected or were not heard. And I think those are two of the things that I try to stress as a public defender to my client, to make sure that they're respected in court, but also that although they may not agree with the judge or his or her ruling or the decision that they make, that they're heard. So the voice of the community is extremely important. No one, again, should feel like they're silenced. Everyone should have a second opportunity. I know this may be going on a tangent, but just because you've committed a felony, if you have done your penance but by the state of Georgia, you should be eligible to vote. If you recall, I think Florida just passed something similar, and that's going up to an appellate court.
It passed Amendment 4.
Yeah, right. So you get to drink water, Chris. You didn't tell us.
Oh man, you gotta be prepared. I appreciate your answers. I really do. I mean, I can talk all day.
I can too.
I'm with the
I can too. I'm passionate about this. You know, I've never been an attorney, a for-profit attorney. I've been a prosecutor. You know, they don't make no money. You know, my starting salary in Boston was $35,000 a year. That was horrible. Most of the prosecutors that I work with had to have second jobs. But anyway, I've only done public interest. I've only been an attorney who dealt with the community, who dealt with people. So I'm very passionate about ensuring that the community is heard, and ensuring that people are respected, and that people's voices are you know, what they want, and that it doesn't matter where you're from, Chris. It doesn't matter that that you have a felony. It doesn't matter that you come from the wrong side of DeKalb County. You should feel just as important as anybody else. You should never feel silenced. You should always know that you matter. And I tell people all the time, you matter. Let your voice be heard through the ballot box. You know, with John Lewis passing, one of the things I tell young people that I mentor, that one of the things that you can do to honor him the most, register to vote and vote.
All right, well, let's get in some good trouble then. Okay.
Well, I bet you already have good trouble, Chris.
All right, well,
It just seems like you're used to being in good trouble. It's okay.
I think Mindy was on for a second. Did we lose her again? I'm so sorry. She's having difficulty joining us. I am going to ask and let Yolanda give her closing statement.
Okay.
And again, I thank you so much for hanging in there and keeping us going this evening.
Well, that's fine. I appreciate the opportunity, Ms. Gloria. I appreciate the opportunity. You know, people are my passion. I've like I said, I've dealt with thousands of children, adults, and families. I've done, you know, divorces, custody. I've done pretty much it all. But in doing my closing statement, I would say that Superior Court judges preside over criminal, domestic, and civil matters. I have years of experience in all of those matters. A judge should be able to competently handle 100% of the matters that come across the bench, not just 62% of the cases, those domestic cases, not just 21% of the criminal cases, and certainly not 15% of the civil matters, but all of those cases. I have years of experience dealing with cases that may not even be included on those counts. Superior Court diversion and accountability courts and programs are effective alternatives that demonstrate just how remedies and behavior correction don't always have to be addressed in a courtroom. I say all this to say that DeKalb deserves a judge that is not one-dimensional. I'm a well-rounded, multi-dimensional career public servant who has experience and knowledge and compassion to handle 100% of all the cases that a DeKalb County Superior Court judge handles.
Hi, Yolanda. It's Mindy. How are you?
Hi, Mindy. I'm doing fine. How are you? I think it's
we're
extremely important that we recognize what
Mindy, give us just a minute.
That I'm running late.
Mindy, can you hear me? This is Gloria.
I
You'll give us
can.
just give us a few minutes. We're just going to let Yolanda finish her closing statement.
Oh, of course. I just wanted to say hi to Yolanda.
And then we'll give you an
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think DeKalb deserves a judge that is not afraid of being in the community, that a judge that is willing to put the sweat equity that is required to be in the community, invested in the community. And I need DeKalb to realize that judicial races are important. They're very important. The person sitting on the bench should reflect the values and the principles of our entire county.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, in short, I'm just urging all DeKalb County to return to the polls August 11th, if not before, and vote for me, Yolanda Parker-Smith, because I think DeKalb deserves someone on the bench who's a strong voice for the community and a strong voice for credibility and integrity in the judicial system. I think that and I don't think, I know I am the best qualified for this position. I'm what DeKalb deserves. I'm what DeKalb needs. Everyone from Doryville to Panthersville, Chamblee, Gresham, Pine Lakes, Lithonia, Tucker, Avondale, Stonecrest, all of DeKalb. I'm asking all of DeKalb to vote for community, compassion, and knowledge and competency, because I am ready, willing, and able to preside over 100% of all the cases that DeKalb County Superior Court Judge would preside over. So again, I'm asking for your vote on August the 11th, whether it be through early voting. Early voting started on July 20th. It goes through August 7th, or absentee ballot. Again, Yolanda Parker-Smith, for change, for integrity, for credibility, for DeKalb. So thank you, Democrats, DeKalb Democrats, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you're welcome to stay with us and just
I'll
cut
just
your
hang
mic.
out. Okay.
Yeah, just turn off your mic if you
Okay,
would.
yes, ma'am. Okay.
And Mindy, are you with us? If we can get Mindy back up again, would love to hear her comments, her opening statement. And if she can stay around for a few minutes, we'll even ask her some questions, give her a chance to get her message out.
Mindy, are you there?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I swear to God that I am like 87 and I cannot actually use technology. So I
Mindy?
apologize.
It's okay. We welcome you. We're glad you made it. We would like to give you an opportunity to get your message out to the voters. Those that can stay with us in our audience tonight, please stay around and hear what Mindy Pillow has to say. She is the other candidate for the Superior Court in DeKalb and has had some difficulty getting on the Zoom tonight. So
Yes, and I definitely apologize, and I would love to hear whatever Chris Bruce has to ask me, because he is one of the smartest people I know.
well, if Chris stays around, we're going to let him do that. But first of all, let me give you an opportunity to do an opening statement and let us know why you are running for this position and what some of your goals are for it. And then we'll ask Chris and Velma to ask you a couple of questions before they go.
Well, and I would love that. And here is why I am running for the Superior Court Judge. I think that Judge Seeliger has done a yeoman's job in DeKalb County. He has been amazing for DeKalb County, and I think I can kind of continue his work because he has been a family law person. He has been a wonderful person for family law. So the reason I'm running is because I am a family law attorney, and I think we need a family law attorney in DeKalb County. We have 9 judges who are amazing. None of them are family law attorneys. So that's kind of where I am.
Chris, go ahead and go first. You're the smartest man around.
Well, I just
He is totally true.
I want to start by saying this is being recorded, so I'm glad that I can use this later on a loop, or at least
So you're
somebody.
going to be using this in the future, right?
Yes, at least someone thinks so. At least someone thinks.
Go ahead, Chris.
Right.
Right.
And
So,
don't forget, Chris Bruce, that I met you like 10 years ago. I think you were a child.
Still am. So young at heart, but love doing this work. I'll start off with the United Nations Human Rights Office on last Friday, called on the U.S. security forces to limit their use of force against peaceful protesters and journalists. As clashes between federal agents and demonstrators continue in Portland, Oregon, what are your thoughts on, one, the use of force against protesters, and two, what are your thoughts of the police being prosecuted for use of force charges, and what changes do you believe need to be made in the way that these types of cases are currently conducted?
Number one, I do not think that anyone should be able to be prosecuted for using force against people. Are not sorry, I have got to get my thoughts together. It is not okay, Chris, for anyone to be prosecuted at this point in time. It's not okay. And I 100% supported you when you went down to oh, sorry. My husband just
Did we lose you, Mindy? Mindy, are you still with us? Did we get disconnected, Karen?
Is Mindy still there?
Okay.
It looks like she got disconnected. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask my moderators if you would like to hang on for just a couple more minutes. I really would like to give her an opportunity to answer just a couple of questions.
I can stay. I'm good.
Okay, good. You okay for just a little bit longer, Bruce? I mean, Christopher.
People call me Bruce too, so it's just I'm here.
Christopher, Bruce.
Right. At the pleasure of the DeKalb Democrats, I'm here for you.
Okay. Then I'll just say to our audience that we really want to give you an opportunity to hear both candidates, and really do apologize for the technical issues that our candidate Mindy Pillow is having right now. But we hope that if we give her just another minute or two, she can dial back in and continue. So please be patient with us.
Why don't we talk?
Tell us about
what's happening?
Am I back on, Chris? Chris is like, why don't we talk?
Why not?
Okay.
This is
Hey guys, do I need to come back?
Yes,
I have my crystal. I have my crystal light.
That's why I want to hear from John about some of the things going on.
Okay, I'll go back off then, Chris.
No. You as well. We're all one big happy DeKalb.
I appreciate the flexibility that everyone is showing. It's just an important election year all around. Every single race on the ballot, whether it's Superior Court Judge or President of the United States or County Commissioner, they all matter the same to us. So we appreciate everybody sticking it out here. We're doing everything we can at DeKalb Dems to make sure that DeKalb County has better elections. I just appointed a vote review panel made up of diverse, very qualified folks of all ages. And, you know, we even got somebody who just graduated high school helping review votes. And but we've also got a lot of experience there too. I think that, you know, we hear a lot about the Secretary of State's office, but one thing we're making sure of is that we get elections right here in DeKalb County. So right here in the community, there can be no doubt that your vote's going to be counted and that voting is going to be easy. And so it doesn't matter if it's a runoff election, a primary election, a special election, or a November general. We've got to make sure the community actually believes that their vote counts and that voting is, you know, just really simple. It should be an in and out process. If you're doing it in person, getting your absentee ballot should be very simple if that's the route you want to go. And if you vote on election day, there should be no long lines at precincts. And, you know, that's something I take very seriously. So if anybody has any questions about that, they can contact me at chair@dekalbdems.com.
What? Why not? I'm right here, so
Sure.
I can email you. No, John, I really appreciate you saying those type of things because, you know, at the ACLU, we're very concerned about elections. There were 20 counties that had judicial orders to extend the times from election day, and DeKalb was on that list. So hearing you and the type of things that you're doing to make sure that, you know, everybody can vote and everybody can vote till at 7 o'clock is very reassuring, especially dealing with the Board of Elections coming up. We launched a poll worker recruitment program. And I believe we have over 100 people who want to work as poll workers in DeKalb County. But I think that's another reason why I was so focusing on, I believe it's 2019 when the state legislature changed the appointment process in DeKalb County to the Board of Elections, to the chief of the Superior Court in DeKalb County to make those appointments, right? So, and then we want the party to play a pivotal role in that. So you can talk more about what the party's doing to make sure that elections run smoothly.
Absolutely. I think what we need to know next time around, the chief judge of the Superior Court needs to make the application process more transparent so we can get applicants in for that role on the Board of Elections as well. So that's one thing we're going to work on for next time around, is make sure we all know the application process to get approved for the Superior Court Judge. Of course, we will be appointing 2 again, and the Republican Party in DeKalb will be appointing 2 again. But and those processes are very public. But we need to also make very public the process of the independent appointment that comes through the Superior Court Judge.
Okay.
Okay, did we get Mindy back? Okay.
No, we did not.
Okay. I'm just going to make a decision that we've done what we could. I will ask Mindy to put something on video and that will kind of address some of the things we talked about so that we give her a chance to you know, have something, get her message out to the voters. And we'll post that on our page at DeKalb Dems, on our Facebook page. And so at this point, thank you to our candidate for being here this evening and spending this time with us and being patient through all of the technicalities or technical issues. And special thanks to my moderators who have come up with some really great questions, and also for your time and energy. And so, John, I'll turn it back to you and just say thank you to our audience and appreciate this opportunity to bring this forum to you.
I just want to thank everybody who tuned in. I want to thank everyone who participated. Gloria Moore for organizing it, Chris Bruce and Velma Tilley for offering their expertise, Yolanda Parker-Smith for letting us know more about her candidacy. Apologies apologies that we were not able to get Mindy Pillow on. We had some technical difficulties to have her on, but we will offer more information to her candidacy as well. And thank you for Karen Mixon, the DeKalb Dems first vice chair, who really makes these events possible by making sure that we have technology up and running for them. With that being said, go to DeKalbDems.com to find out more. And yes, if you want to know more, you can email me at chair@DeKalbDems.com.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks for including.
Bye.
Stay healthy. Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you so very much. Be safe.
You too.